I heard the knock just after midnight. And I knew before I opened the door that something would shift, not in him, but in me. The house was quiet the way only a house can be when someone is gone. Not just out for a few hours, but gone. Suitcase by the door, itinerary printed, absence planned. Greg had left 2 days ago for a conference in Phoenix. I stayed behind with the cat and the plants, and the kind of loneliness that doesn't look like loneliness from the outside. My name is Leah. I'm 47. I married Greg 8 years ago. It wasn't a whirlwind or a grand love story. It was a choice. A good one. A quiet one. The kind that made sense on paper and settled gently into routine. We didn't fight much. We didn't need much. We were, in a word, fine. Greg had a son, Evan, from his first marriage, 27 now. We never lived together. He came for holidays, the occasional Sunday dinner, birthdays when the scheduling worked. We got along. I asked polite questions. He gave polite answers. Nothing awkward. Nothing close. Greg adored him. Still spoke about him like he was 12, a boy in a soccer jersey, all freckles and wide eyes. He never noticed the man standing in front of him now, taller, quieter, with eyes that gave nothing away. We never had kids of our own. It just didn't happen. Not for lack of trying. But after a certain point, trying turned into silence, and silence turned into acceptance. And eventually, acceptance turned into forgetting we ever wanted more. That night, I was curled up on the couch with a book I wasn't really reading. The cat slept somewhere out of sight. The rain tapped against the windows in steady, patient fingers. I was just about to go upstairs when I heard it. A knock. Not loud. Not frantic. Just soft. 3 times. Evenly spaced. Not quite hesitant, but not expecting an answer either. I froze. You don't get visitors at midnight. Not the kind who knock gently. My heart ticked faster. I sat upright, ears straining. The knock didn't come again. But I already knew. I knew. I opened the door slowly, hand still wrapped in the throw blanket from the couch. And there he was. Evan. Standing in the rain. Hoodie half-zipped. Jeans dark and damp at the cuffs. His backpack hung from one shoulder, low and heavy. His hair, longer than last I'd seen, was wet, clinging to his forehead in quiet defeat. Hey, he said, blinking like the porch light surprised him. Didn't mean to bother you. I stared at him. Something tightened behind my ribs. What happened? I asked, already stepping aside before he answered. Train got canceled, he said. Was heading to Dad's. Forgot he was out of town. I didn't ask why he didn't call. I didn't ask where else he could have gone. I should have. I should have said, find a friend. Call a rideshare. It's too late. But I didn't. I said, come in. It's late. And he did. That was my first mistake. He stepped inside slowly, as if unsure whether he'd truly been invited. The rain clung to him. He smelled like the street, wet concrete, and wind. He dropped his bag by the coat rack, but didn't take off his hoodie. Do you want a towel? I asked, already heading to the hallway closet. Yeah, he said. Thanks. I handed it to him. Our fingers touched, just barely. He nodded, not quite smiling. I pointed toward the couch. I'll make some tea. He sat down without a word. In the kitchen, I moved too carefully. Every clink of porcelain felt loud. Every sound had weight. I told myself I was just tired. That this was a kindness, nothing more. But the truth is, I felt something. From the moment I opened the door. Not attraction. Not guilt. Just attention. A hum that settled in the bones. The kettle whistled. I poured 2 cups. He was leaning forward when I came back in, elbows on knees, the towel in a loose grip. He looked up when I handed him the mug, took it with one hand, nodded again. Thanks. You're lucky I was still up, I said. He didn't answer, just sipped. I sat on the far end of the couch, legs curled beneath me. Silence stretched, but it didn't press. The tea warmed my hands, but not enough. We talked. Not much. He told me he'd been working late. Missed the last train. Didn't want to spend money on a hotel. I figured your place was closer than Mom's, he said, shrugging. That landed strange. Your place. Not Dad's. Not home. Mine. He asked how things were. I shrugged. The usual. He nodded, like he understood something I hadn't said aloud. I studied him quietly. He looked different now. Older, yes. But not just that. There was a calmness to him. A weight behind the eyes. A stillness in how he held himself, like someone who'd stopped expecting comfort, but still knew how to give it. His hoodie sleeves were frayed at the wrists. I watched his fingers tug at the threads absent-mindedly as he talked. His other hand stayed around the mug, steady and warm. When I stood to fetch him a blanket, he reached out, barely, and caught my wrist. His fingers didn't close around it, just touched it. Thanks, he said. His voice didn't sound like a son thanking a stepmother. It didn't sound like a boy thanking an adult. It just sounded certain, unapologetic. I looked down at his hand, then at his face. His eyes didn't flinch. I nodded once and smiled. Too long, too much. And then I pulled away gently. I handed him the blanket and said good night. He stood to take it, taller than I remembered. He didn't say anything else. Neither did I. I turned toward the stairs. The hallway light glowed above me, steady, soft. I didn't turn it off. That was my second mistake. I reached my bedroom and closed the door quietly. But I didn't lock it, and I didn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, eyes wide open, hearing nothing but rain and the thrum in my own chest. Because something had already changed. Not in him. In me. And no amount of silence would make me unknow it. It's strange how quickly a house adapts to someone new. Or maybe not new, someone reintroduced. 1 minute it's just you and the quiet, the steady rhythm of your own habits. And the next, there's another pair of footsteps, another breath in the air. You notice things you don't normally hear. The way the tap drips in the kitchen, how the floor groans when someone shifts on the couch. I lay awake listening to all of it. And not because I was worried. Because I was aware. The hallway light still glowed under the door, soft and static. I never leave it on overnight. Greg always complains it flickers. But I hadn't turned it off. Couldn't. It was like the night was still in motion. Like something hadn't ended yet. When I did fall asleep, it was shallow, dreamless. I woke early, just after 7. Light filtered through the curtains in slow ribbons. I moved quietly, more from instinct than need. As if noise might snap whatever still lingered in the air. Downstairs, the couch was a mess of folded blanket and a flattened pillow. Evan wasn't there. But his bag remained, and his mug was still by the sink. The cat was curled on the windowsill, perfectly unbothered. I followed the sound of water into the kitchen. He was barefoot, standing at the counter, pouring cereal. His back was to me. His hoodie was gone. Just a black t-shirt now, soft and worn at the seams. His hair was still slightly damp from a shower I hadn't heard. He turned when I stepped in. "Morning," he said. "Morning," I echoed. I stood there for a moment, not moving. He gestured at the box. "Want some?" I shook my head. "No, thanks." "You sure? I'm more of a toast person." He nodded, like that told him something important. I made tea. He ate in silence. We shared the space like people who'd done it before, not in this life, maybe, but some life just beneath it. There was no awkwardness. No effort. That's what made it harder. It felt natural. He asked if I had plans. I said no. Then he asked how things had been with Greg lately. The question landed too softly. Fine, I said. He looked at me for a moment. Just looked. Not suspicious. Not prying. Just registering. I sipped my tea. We've been coasting, I guess. He nodded. Yeah, that's all. Just yeah. But the way he said it felt like he was agreeing with something I hadn't finished saying. I changed the subject. Asked about his job. He told me about a contract he might take, something temporary, far from here. I asked if he liked the work. He said, it's work. Then added, some days, I feel like I'm still waiting for something to start. I didn't answer that, because the words landed too close to home. Later, I did laundry, just to have something to fold. He asked if I needed help. I said no. He sat on the floor anyway, sifting socks, handing me towels. We didn't speak much. He told me about a song he liked. Played it on his phone. Left it on the counter when he went to get something from his bag. I listened to the whole thing. Quietly. Twice. It had no chorus. Just soft guitar and a voice that almost broke. That evening I made dinner. Nothing special. Pasta, garlic bread, leftover salad. I wasn't hungry, but I set 2 places anyway. He came in before I called him. We sat across from each other. The sound of silverware, wine in glasses, a window open just enough to let in the hum of the street. He told a story about getting lost in a new neighborhood. I laughed. Not politely. Really laughed. He watched me when I did. I felt it, and for a second, I didn't want to stop. After we cleaned up, I brought him a blanket from the upstairs closet. He reached to take it. But this time, his hand touched my wrist, deliberately but without force. Not a grip, just a placement. A gesture. Thanks for letting me stay, he said. His voice was quieter than before. Not softer, just lower, like a secret. Or a memory. I nodded. Our eyes didn't move. And I smiled. Too long again. Too real. Then I stepped back. Upstairs, I turned off every light in the hallway except one. The one nearest my door. I told myself it was habit. But it wasn't. In bed, I didn't read. I just lay there, watching the line of light under the door, listening to nothing, to everything, to the way one night could unmake all the years I'd lived pretending not to feel. There was no noise, no footsteps, but I felt him there, somewhere in the house, not reaching for me, but not avoiding me either, just there, like breath at the edge of a question neither of us wanted to ask. It was 12:41 when I woke. Not to a sound, but to something else. That thick kind of stillness that wakes you without warning. Not a dream. Not a noise. Just presence. Like the air had shifted while I slept. My eyes opened in the dark, and the first thing I saw was the line of light beneath the door. Still on. Still glowing. Still waiting. I sat up, slowly. The sheets fell from my body with a hush that sounded louder than it should have. I didn't move for a while. Just sat there. Heart even. Breathing shallow. Listening. There was nothing. But I could feel it. Something was awake. I pushed the covers back and swung my legs over the edge of the bed. The floor was cool beneath my feet. The house was hushed in that way that makes everything feel padded, like the night is holding its breath for you. I crossed the room and opened the door. Not quickly. Not because I needed to. Just because I had to. Evan was standing in the hallway. Shirtless. Barefoot. Still. His shoulders were relaxed, but his face wasn't blank. He didn't look surprised. Or caught. Or apologetic. He looked at me like I'd been expected. Like this moment wasn't a mistake. Just late. Sorry, he said. Voice low. Steady. Just. Couldn't sleep. I stood in the doorway, fingers resting lightly on the frame. I didn't smile. I didn't ask why. I just said, "Me neither." There was a pause then. Not awkward. Not tense. Something else. Still. Heavy. Like a bridge being considered, not yet crossed. He didn't move. I didn't either. We were a few feet apart, but it felt like standing in the quiet heat of something unfinished, something waiting to be named. The hallway light behind him flickered slightly, that tired bulb Greg always meant to change, that I never bothered to remind him about. Its glow pooled across the floor, touching both our feet. We didn't speak. We just stood there, eyes holding, bodies stilled, everything in between louder than anything that could be said. I should have said, "Go to bed, Evan." Or, "This isn't appropriate." Or even just, "Good night." But I didn't, because none of those things felt real. What felt real was the weight in his posture, the quiet way he breathed, the fact that neither of us looked away. "Do you want some water?" I asked finally. He didn't smile, but something softened in his eyes. "Only if you do." That did something to me. The way he said it, not flirty, not coy, just level. Like he wasn't offering a drink. He was offering choice. Invitation without push. Proximity without demand. I didn't answer. I didn't move. I just stood there, fingers brushing the doorframe, breath slow and unsure. And in that moment, it wasn't about action. It was about permission. Mine. The hallway felt warmer than it had before. The kind of warmth that doesn't come from light, but from presence. From nearness. My body was aware of his not because of what it wanted, but because of how long it had gone without being noticed. Not touched. Seen. The silence said everything. That we both knew where we stood. That something had shifted, days ago, maybe longer. That no line had been crossed. But the space between them had narrowed beyond return. I stepped back into the room. Not quickly, but deliberately. Turned once, just enough for my gaze to catch his. I didn't close the door. And he didn't walk away. He stayed in the hallway. Still. Like a question waiting for an answer I wasn't ready to give. Eventually, I sat on the edge of the bed. The door behind me open. Light cutting across the floor. And I felt him not inside, not beside me, but still there. In the space. In the possibility. In the breath I didn't know I'd been holding for months. He never followed. But he didn't leave either. And that was enough. Not because I wanted more, but because I wanted anything at all. Some kind of proof that I wasn't invisible in my own house. That night I didn't sleep again. But it wasn't restlessness. It wasn't nerves. It was clarity. That what I'd felt wasn't imagined. That I wasn't alone in it. That silence, when shared, can be more dangerous than any word. And in the morning, I'd have to pretend again. But for now, there was the door, still open, and him, still waiting, without needing to be let in. I woke to sunlight. Warm, disorienting, too honest. The kind that fills a room like a secret being exposed, softly, steadily, without giving you time to prepare. I sat up slowly, still in the same place I'd been for hours, the covers barely touched. My hand was asleep from resting against my side too long. I flexed it out of habit, not even sure what I expected to feel. The hallway was quiet. The light, finally off. The space outside my door was empty. Of course it was. I moved through the morning carefully, deliberately, as if each action was a thread being pulled from some fragile cloth. Brushing my teeth, tying my robe, walking down the stairs barefoot because I didn't want the sound of my heels to announce anything. The living room was still. The couch was made perfectly. Blanket folded. Pillow centered. His mug gone. So was his bag. I stood for a long moment, looking at the emptiness he'd left behind. There was nothing out of place, which made it worse, because he'd left no evidence of having been here at all. No note, no text, no whispered acknowledgement of the night, just absence. I walked to the kitchen. The cat meowed at my ankle, unaware or uninterested in what hadn't happened. I opened the fridge, closed it again. Boiled water. Made tea. Out of habit, I took down 2 mugs before correcting myself. Put one away. Filled the other. I didn't drink it. I just stood there, holding the cup, letting the warmth bleed into my hands. On the counter, near the sink, I saw it. A single glass. Not washed. Not rinsed. Just left. He must have used it before he left. Sometime after the hallway. Sometime before I woke. I picked it up. Held it. My fingers moved to the part where his had likely rested. Not to clean it. Just to feel. As if something of him might still be there. The heat from his palm. The imprint of something unsaid. Of something felt. Greg called around 10. Flight's delayed, he said. Might be home tonight. Might be tomorrow morning. He sounded annoyed. Bored. Hungry. I can order something in for you, I offered. He said he'd figure it out. Then asked, did the cat eat? Yes, I replied. That was all. I didn't say anything else. He didn't notice. I put the glass in the sink but didn't wash it. Then I walked through the house. Not looking for anything. Just checking, as if the quiet might shift again. As if I might find something he left behind. But he hadn't. He'd taken everything. Except whatever he stirred in me that stayed. That evening, the sky turned gray before it turned dark. I lit a candle without thinking. Not for ambience. Just for company. The house felt smaller now. Not empty. Not cold. Just more aware of its corners. The couch. The stairs. The hallway. Greg arrived a little after 9. Kissed me at the door like he always does. Light, familiar, habitual. His suitcase trailed behind him like punctuation. He dropped his keys on the hallway table and laughed about airport traffic. I smiled. I asked if he wanted tea. He said, if you're having some. I said I wasn't. He said okay, and that was it. Later, as I got ready for bed, I found myself checking the hallway light. It was off, but I stared at it anyway. For too long. And something in me, some part one had thought was quiet for good, whispered that I wouldn't lock the door again tonight. Not out of recklessness. Not out of hope. Just refusal. Because locking it now would feel like lying. Nothing happened. That's what I told myself. No words. No touches. No lines crossed. Only nearness. Only breath. Only a moment so still and full that it pressed into me like a memory I wasn't supposed to keep. And yet I do. I keep it in the quiet between Greg's sentences. In the way my hand hovers over the second mug. In the glance I give the hallway some nights, just to see if the light is glowing again. It never is. But I still look. Evan never called. Never texted. Never came back. And I never asked Greg about him. Because some things are easier when they stay unnamed. Safer when they're only felt once. But I carry it. That night. That light. That version of myself I saw reflected in someone else's eyes. Not out of guilt. Not out of need. But because for a moment, I wasn't someone's wife. Or someone's stepmother. I was simply someone seen. And I haven't locked the door since.